you. Thank you for sticking around. I know I'm going into lunchtime. So, like she said, I'm a transplant coordinator at Mayo Clinic, and I am the coordinator for our metabolic center. Learning objectives, I have no disclosures. There's nothing interesting here. So, we started this clinic because we knew that having patients going into transplant that had a BMI of greater than 35, they are at a much higher risk for cardiovascular issues after transplant, specifically atrial fibrillation and congestive heart disease. For every 5 points above 30 with your BMI, you're at a 25% increased risk for atrial fibrillation or congestive heart failure post-transplant. A few interesting points with this study, because all the good studies in the US, 75% of those patients were males, of course. 60% were male, 75% were white. And the mean age at transplant for this study was 47. And I would venture to say that a lot of our patients are older than that at the time of transplant. So I really feel that a lot of our transplants are probably at more of a risk for cardiovascular events than what this study is showing. Factors that can affect weight gain after a kidney transplant, these patients are put on high doses of IV prednisone immediately, and then they are tapered down over a course of 1 to 2 weeks. And then after that, they're put on a low dose of prednisone, usually for life, 5 milligrams a day. So that can contribute to weight gain, high blood sugars. Immunosuppression and hyperglycemia, these patients are usually put on tacrolimus. This is a drug that we know can increase your chance of developing diabetes after transplant and also contributes to hyperglycemia, which is going to contribute to weight gain. And then a lot of these patients come back at 4 months with what I like to call the transplant 15, which is a lot like the freshman 15. They're feeling a lot better after transplant. They're loving life again. They're going out with their friends. Food actually tastes good. They've been sick for a long time. So of course they come back at 4 months and they've gained 15 or 20 pounds, right? Because they're living and loving life. And I love that for them, but it's still a risk. So we needed to have a program that we had options specifically for patients that were getting ready for transplant. You have to have a BMI of less than 40 to be able to be listed for a kidney transplant at Mayo Clinic. This number is different depending on what transplant center you're at. But we wanted to have a program that was specific for these patients because we have an endocrinology program for weight loss, but these patients were getting lost in the muck. And when you send them there, they were getting advice that wasn't necessarily appropriate for them. Dietary advice, activity advice, medications that aren't necessarily appropriate for patients that have kidney disease, and surgical procedures that aren't necessarily appropriate for patients with kidney disease. We wanted this catered to them. We also recognize that care coordination for patients that have chronic disease is not necessarily going to be the same as a healthy patient who's just going for weight loss. These patients have appointments coming out of their wazoo, right? They are going for transplant evaluation, and then some of them are on dialysis 3 times a week. And then not to mention all the appointments they're doing for the other things that they've got going on, hypertension, diabetes, oh, my back hurts, whatever. So they need a little more handholding. They need a little more prompting to come in, get these appointments done, make sure that they're moving through the process versus we can't just send them a message and be like, here are 10 appointments that you need to make, call us, because that's not going to happen. So we started this in 2021. We've done 66 sleeve gastrectomies on pre-kidney transplant patients. 38 of those patients have been transplanted. 23 of those patients have been waitlisted. So they have met the weight requirements and they're currently waiting for a kidney, along with hundreds of thousands of other people in the country. And 3 of those patients, after they had their sleeve gastrectomy, their GFRs went up to the point that they are now too well to be listed for a transplant. So they're inactive and they're basically just sitting there waiting to get sicker so then they can get a transplant. So their weight loss caused them to have better kidney function. I know that somebody else had brought this up yesterday or the day before, but I always like to talk about excessive daytime sleepiness and BMI. So This study was done back in 2006, I think. Yeah. And so the higher your BMI, the more likely you are to have excessive daytime sleepiness. And this is independent of having insomnia or sleep apnea or any other sort of sleep related disorder. So that's just being heavier. But now imagine that you also have chronic kidney disease or organ failure, and you're on dialysis, and you have diabetes and high blood pressure. These people are exhausted. Just getting out of bed every day is like too much work for them. So then they come in and they say, I need a kidney transplant. And you say, great, we're going to help you. But first you have to lose 40 pounds. Okay. So when you've done that, come on back to us and we'll talk. And they're like, okay, great. They need help. They need guidance. The patient said it best. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. They need a lifeline. So the important thing on this slide is that the patient needs to see the surgeon first. We need to make sure that they are an acceptable candidate, not only for a sleeve gastrectomy, but for a transplant, right? Because we don't want to put them through all of this if they don't have good cardiac function and they're not a good candidate for a transplant. So we have a transplant surgeon who does kidney and liver transplants and also does the sleeve gastrectomies. He's certified in all of those things. We're very fortunate in this. And our education, this is not going to be a popular opinion in this room, but I promise I'll make my point. We want to educate the patient that in the context of needing a transplant, bariatric surgery is going to be the most effective way to get long-term timely weight loss, and that's going to facilitate your organ transplant. So this first picture is a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, and we know that the Roux-en-Y is restrictive and also malabsorptive, right? That's why it's called bypass, because we bypass a huge portion of the stomach. The second picture is a sleeve gastrectomy. So they take your stomach, it's the size of a large grapefruit, they cut it down to the size of a small banana. Because the sleeve gastrectomy is restrictive only, it doesn't affect the absorption of your food and medications as much. The sleeve gastrectomy is the procedure of choice for patients who have had or are going to have a transplant. We don't want them going to other programs that are going to talk to them about SADIs or Roux-en-Ys or any of those other things, because they are going to need to be able to absorb as much as possible after transplant because they need those immunosuppression drugs. They go to see an endocrinologist, they go to see a psychologist. I'm going to skip this just in the interest of time. A lot of times they're going to see a dietitian at the same time that they come in for their kidney transplant evaluation. This way, the dietitian can talk to them about not only their kidney health diet, but also in the context of the weight loss and the sleeve gastrectomy. A lot of these patients are on dialysis. We're going to talk about getting ready for a sleeve, and it's an all liquid diet. So when you talk to a dialysis patient about being on an all liquid diet, that's like to them because they're usually on fluid restriction. They're like, how am I supposed to do this? So we have developed this protein appropriate liquid diet for these dialysis patients. It's specifically for them. And you have to remember when you come in and you want to talk to these people about weight loss, they're already on a diet restriction of some kind. They know all about all of the things they shouldn't eat, right? They're on a low potassium, low phosphorus. They all have diabetes. Most of them have diabetes. Everyone's on a low sodium diet. They know all about what they shouldn't eat, right? So it's very difficult to come in and say lots of fruits and vegetables. And they say, okay, but I can't eat this because I'm on warfarin, and I can't eat this because it's got too much potassium, and I can't do bread because of the phosphorus. And I think that dietitians in the general population are like, I don't know what to do with this. And so we really like that we've set it up so that these patients can see a transplant dietitian who will do the bariatric education with them at the same time. This came up yesterday, so I called our dietitian last night and said, hey, I'm going to need some information. This is protein recommendations for patients with kidney disease. So if you're in CKD stage 1 to 2, it's going to be on the low side of normal recommendations. CKD stages 3 to 5, if they're not on dialysis, we're looking at 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilogram, so lower than low. right? Because we know that their kidneys are not going to flush that stuff out. We need to be careful. If they are dialysis dependent, it's basically normal recommendations because they can go to dialysis and it's going to take care of that. This I found interesting though, and I didn't know this. In the 4 months after renal transplant, they are recommended to do 1 to 2 grams per kilogram daily, I suppose to help with healing, but I didn't know that the recommendations were that high. And then maintenance is 0.8 to 1.0 grams per kilogram. It's still on the low side of normal. And that's because at any time that new transplanted kidney can be like, well, I belong here. So we want to be careful with, the things that we're putting in. How do we use GLP-1s in transplant? I could not find a picture of a person with obesity using an injectable. Go figure. So patients with CKD, expected weight loss outcomes with GLP-1s is about 5 to 10% over 6 months to a year. So let's take a look at Mrs. Jones. She's short. She's 5'2". I wish I was 5'2". And she weighs 250 pounds. So this gives her an expected weight loss of 12.5 to 25 pounds in 6 months to a year. Now, remember, she needs to lose this weight to be able to be listed for a kidney transplant. Even if she makes the maximum weight loss, let's say she goes all out and she loses and gets her weight down to 225, that still only gives her a BMI of 41.2 at best after a year. And so that's why we say bariatric surgery is going to be the most effective way to achieve the lasting long-term weight loss in a timely manner that's going to facilitate organ transplant. So for this reason, we often use medications in conjunction with sleeve gastrectomy. Oftentimes it's going to be in the post-surgical phase. We do use GLP-1s pre-surgical, but so because of the recommendations with anesthesia that they stop 2 weeks prior to any kind of anesthesia, and these patients are doing so much testing in the pre-transplant phase, a lot of times they're on and off these a lot. They're just not super effective, depending on the patient. So for a couple of years, we were getting a lot of pushback saying, oh, these drugs are not safe for patients with kidney disease. They shouldn't be taking them. This study came out last year. Over 3,000 patients showed that after 3.5 years, the group on semaglutide versus the group on the placebo had a 24% reduced risk of a primary outcome event on semaglutide. So that meant the primary events would be a GFR below 15, having to go on dialysis, a kidney transplant, or dying from a cardiovascular or kidney death. So 25% reduced risk of these events if they were on semaglutide versus the placebo group. So not only did we learn that semaglutide is pretty safe for patients with kidney disease, but that it can have benefits for patients with kidney disease. Most of our patients, it's laparoscopic, right? So 5 incisions across. They spend 1 night in the hospital. Some special considerations for transplant patients, we want them to monitor their blood pressure really closely. And we want to make sure that they know who to call when it's getting too low, because most of these patients are going to go in being on blood pressure medications. And those are going to need to be adjusted throughout their post-surgical course. We're always in close contact with their dialysis center because we want to make sure that they know that they've had this weight loss surgery. And we want to make sure that they know that, especially in those first couple of months, it can be normal to need to lower their dry weight, like 0.5 kilogram to 1 kilogram, sometimes per treatment. And that sounds excessive, but it's true. And it can be really difficult to differentiate that fluid weight with weight. And it's definitely a balancing act. All of the patients have a pharmacy consult. We want to make sure that their meds are anything that they can be crushed or cut in half. We don't want them on any capsules. Examples are like gabapentin, Cellcept, any phosphate binders. We transition those either into a capsule or something they can like sprinkle, because we don't want those getting stuck in there right in that immediate post-operative phase. We want to give the esophagus a rest. Pre-surgery, these patients that have diabetes are going to meet with a diabetes educator, because we know that when they start that liquid diet, their blood sugars are immediately going to start going down. And so we want to make sure that they know how to check their blood sugars, when to check their blood sugars, and who to contact if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, if they're not able to manage them. And then they're going to also have a meeting with a diabetes educator 1 week post-surgery, because we know that most likely, even as they're increasing their intake and moving up to the next stages, those blood sugars are going to continue to go down. So we want to make sure that that's properly managed. I'm going to skip this one in the interest of time. The most important thing to take away from this is that patients that are in that CKD stages 3 to 4, so they have chronic kidney disease, but they're not on dialysis, and they're usually on a strict fluid restriction. They're at the highest risk for dehydration, right? So we want to make sure that they are walking that fine line between getting enough to drink, but still following their fluid restriction and not getting fluid overloaded, which is practically impossible. So good luck, nephrologists. A lot of times, sometimes we'll keep them in the hospital for an extra few days on IV fluids. But what we do is we give them those like med cups and we say, okay, you're supposed to drink 2 of these per hour starting at 7 in the morning and throughout the day. And that's how we teach them how to regulate their fluids. The most important visit is the 2-month visit, return for in-person. So they see the nephrologist, they see the surgeon and the nurse. They have a PT appointment. They see a dietitian, they do labs. We do 24-hour blood pressure monitoring and continuous glucose monitoring if they're a diabetic, because we want to make sure that they are physically ready for transplant. Some of the key takeaways: all of the patients go through a kidney transplant evaluation before they go through this whole sleeve gastrectomy program, because we want to make sure that these patients are appropriate for transplant before we put them through all of this, right? Physical therapy visits. We know that rapid weight loss causes muscle wasting. So these patients do a physical therapy visit before their sleeve gastrectomy, 2 to 3 months before, and 2 months after, so that we can keep track of that activity and make sure that we have them on the right track to stay strong. And this sets them all up to be listed once they've met their BMI requirements. So after that 2-month visit, they are presented to the transplant committee to be listed. If they meet all of the criteria and they've met their weight loss goals, they can be listed for transplant as soon as 2 months afterwards. That doesn't always happen. Some of the common reasons that doesn't happen: ongoing hypotension, the debility, blood sugar management, and they haven't met their BMI requirements. A lot of the patients that come in, we're looking at BMIs of 50 or 55. It's not reasonable for us to expect them to be below 40 in 2 months. How am I doing on time? 4 minutes. I'm going to skip the case studies, but I can email them to anybody who would like to look at them. This is our team. These are my sources.